film over here because I'm like, ugh, I can't find anywhere to put my camera and the angles are awful. But this is cute! Hi everyone! This is my new series that I'm gonna call The Renaissance of Book Reviews because I really want to do more individual book reviews. I wanted to come here and talk about this book series that I just read, and it's not a completed series, so maybe we'll have an update to this video. But I feel like it is my civic duty to talk about these books because they are incredible, and I've only heard like a handful of people talk about them, and I need to just harass you to get on it. I'm doing a full-ass dedicated video for the books Furyborn and Kingsbane by Claire Legrand, and I implore you to pick them up. And hopefully in the next 5 to 10 minutes, I can convince you why. So is this a book review or just me sitting on my floor pestering you to read a book for 10 minutes? Who knows? I want to tell you about these because I just finished this book last night, and honestly the book almost hit me in the face when I picked it up, and I really wish it would have. Just it like ended my life. I would die for that book. Like that one song in The Sound of Music, let's start from the very beginning. So the first book is Furyborn. This is a trilogy. It's not completed until October when the third book comes out. So there's Furyborn, then Kingsbane, then the third one in October is called Lightbringer. So this is a fantasy series, and it is told in dual perspective. The very, very basic gist of this is that there's a prophecy in this fantasy world that there is going to be two queens, a blood queen and a sun queen. One of them is going to destroy the world and bring the end of humanity, and one of them is going to redeem the world and be like the resurrector. So the series is narrated by two different women that exist a millennia apart, 1,000 years apart. The first is Riel, who lives in a world of magic, and she, rather than having one of 7 elements that she can handle, she can wield all of them. So everyone is like, oh my god, it's the Sun Queen, she's so powerful, she's gonna save us. And so it follows her going through trials to show that she can wield these magical powers and all the elements. And so her chapters really focus on that. So the second perspective is Eliana, who exists, like I said, 1,000 years later, and her world has no magic, and instead her world has been overrun by the Empire, which is this really militaristic, corrupt, terrible force that basically it's infiltrated all cities and all the different countries, and she works for them as a bounty hunter. So anyone trying to escape from the Empire or anyone fighting back against them, she kills them just because it's a job that she does to make sure that her family is fed and safe. So in her chapters, Eliana is assigned to take down someone called the Wolf, who is like the top assassin person for the rebel group called the Red Crown. And then right when she's about to find him and turn him in, he asks her for her help in solving something. And so they actually have to work together rather than turning each other in or fighting each other. And then the series just continues on from there and talks about the new revelations there are and how Riel and Eliana's lives are intertwined. After reading this one, it's hard to go back to this one and like tell you what it's about without a ton of spoilers because so much develops over the course of these two books. The first book is like 500 pages, but this one is nearing 600, so they're a hefty story, but they're so worth it. As you can see, I have so many sticky tabs in these books. My favorite thing about the series is, even though the plot is so cut and dry, like from the synopsis I gave you, you could probably tell me what you think is gonna happen just because the book has a prophecy. Like, it tells you from the very beginning what's gonna happen. But the characters keep this book afloat. I love the characters. Riel is so badass and Eliana is so badass, and I just think that they carry the story. Even though you know what's gonna happen, they're so fun to read about that you are just along for the ride. And every time that I read a book in dual perspective, I try not to pick a favorite, but my monkey brain cell is like, pick a favorite. So I think I lean a little bit more toward Eliana's chapters, and I like her a lot because she's so human. Riel is the one that's like powerful and doesn't care if anyone gets in her way, and she's the most powerful person on earth, so like no one can get in front of her, which I think in itself is a cool character trait. But Eliana is more so like, it's so hard to talk about without spoiling, but I just have such a soft spot for her. And both girls have a respective romance in each of their chapters, and that is so well developed. There's two main things that I really like about this world, other than just like the characters and the storyline in general. First of all, this series is so normalizing of same-sex relationships. Both characters, Riel and Eliana, are either bi or pan. It doesn't really mention it, but it's so normal for them to like see a girl and be like, And there's even scenes where they just see girls and they're like, I would like to kiss her. Like, homophobia doesn't exist in this world, and so they're kissing girls, they're kissing guys. Like, it's so normal and no one bats an eye at it, and I think it's so nice. There's even kingdoms where there's either 2 kings or 2 queens. I just like that in a world that a lot of people marginalize gay people, but this one is just like, yeah, do whatever. Another thing about this that I love is that it's super sex positive, so there are really descriptive sex scenes, not like obscenely descriptive or like erotic really, but it like shows the sex happening, which, you know how many YA books are like, and then he slowly walks me into deeper water, or whatever the Breaking Dawn quote is for fade to black scenes. So I like that this talks about it, and even just beyond showing sex happening, there's also so many discussions of like human things in the book. So like periods are discussed, birth control is discussed, and I just love books that aren't afraid to confront that, especially fantasy books, because a lot of times it's just like girls are perfect little angel creatures and they don't bleed, but it's like, no, we're human, or somewhat, even though they have magic. And there's no like sluttiness about it. There's no like, oh, I'm bad because I like it. It's very open and upfront, and like I said, there's kissing scenes with guys and girls, and I just love it. Maybe it's the adult in me speaking that like I like more explicit content, but I just really enjoyed it. There's not much else to say. And beyond that, the angst and the pining in the series is so magnificent. I'm not sure how much I can discuss this book without getting into spoiler territory, but it was really heavy and emotional at the end. The plot twist in this, I know that it's not that helpful to tell you there's a plot twist coming, because then you know you're expecting a plot twist, but like this book, I'll be honest, I only gave this one 3.5 stars. I felt like this book was trying to do too much because there's so many different plot points. Like there's elemental magic, there's angels, there's like scientific experiments on people, and it just got bogged down by that in the end. Like the end felt really rushed for me, but this book received a full glowing 5 stars, and the ending of this, I have not gasped out loud reading a book since like Defy Me. So I was on FaceTime with my friends while I was reading this, and they heard my reaction and they were like, oh, a plot twist just happened, and I was losing my mind back to back. So much was happening that I thought this was gonna be like a 4 or 4.5 star book, and as soon as the ending hit, I was like, nope, full 5 stars. That was crazy. So this book took me like a good 2 weeks to read because it's pretty big, and you know, I'm still working through the coronavirus, so I'm stressed. There's so many soft scenes in this. There's so many intense scenes in this. And when I praise the series, I'm mostly talking about the sequel, because this one was pretty good, had a lot of great scenes, but this is by far my favorite in the series. The character development is so rich, and I love the dialogue in this. It's so smart and well thought out. Each character has their own flavor and purpose in the story. The relationships are so meaningful. I just love it. But the only criticism that I had about this book, the reason why I wasn't gonna rate it that full 5-star rating as I was making my way through the beginning and the middle, is there's a lot of turning pieces in here about like different armies, and like there's the humans versus the magical world versus the Empire versus the Rebellion versus the Angels and the Angels army, and the people who are allegiant to the Angels and the Angels that are rebelling against the other Angels. And a lot of times it would just say like they're attacking and didn't really specify like what's going on. And also there were a couple plot points in here that were like massive. Like I also forgot to mention that time travel is one of the tropes we're dealing with that made it seem like there's too much going on, but sometimes the characters would do like really massive things in the story, and then it would barely even explain like why they were doing that, or there wasn't a lot of build up to it, so it seemed really sudden, and I'm like, we should stop and talk about this because this is going to impact a lot of things. And then the characters would just jump into it, which I would say is more of a plot fault than a character fault, because I would defend these characters till the ends of the earth. I think they're so fascinating and well fleshed out, even though it breaks my heart to see where they ended up at the end of this book, like how different they are and how things have changed so much. It's a really smart series. It's a progressive series. Even though the plot has so many things coming together that sometimes feels a little bit overly saturated with different tropes, the characters are really what drive the story and what make it so awesome and fun to read. My review of this book on Goodreads is just like a scathing 1-sentence review, which is, this book somehow deserves both the electric chair and 5 stars. Needless to say, I'm really anticipating book 3. I think it's going to be a whirlwind conclusion. There are a lot of ties, or threads I should say, that need wrapping up. And I have no idea where it's gonna go from here because I am just so shocked how this book ended. The epilogue of the first book showed you like how things got to where they are. Like, it's the type of series where it shows you the last scene of a movie and then everything else just rewinds and shows you what happened to get to that point. So we're kind of just waiting to see like what's gonna happen to get to where we are at the beginning of this book, and it's nuts. Even though this book was like 600 pages, I would not be upset if the last book is like 1,000 pages, just because I want the good ending for these characters. This author knows what she's doing with plot, and she's really good at weaving in different storylines and perspectives. I was really shocked by this series. I was sent this for review, I think like around the time this one came out, so maybe 2019, and I really put it on the back burner for a while because I'd heard some people talk about it. I'd heard it was okay. But after reading it, and especially after reading this one, like, it's truly one of like the most standout YA series I've read, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it, and I really hope you read it and enjoy it. And even if you only give this one like 3 stars, I highly encourage you to read the sequel because it is superior. It is so good. Hopefully I've convinced you that they're awesome, even though I'm sure half my review was just like, there's sex in it. Which for me is like a good reason to want to read something. If you're anything like me, it's got sex in it. I think there's something to appeal to a lot of people. Like, there's a really dark, villainous angel in there that influences both of them, and I think if you're like a fan of the Darkling or just like evil characters that make you want to like them but you know they're bad but they're also like fascinating, so you like want to get to know them more, it's got one of those characters in there. There's sapphic scenes, there's angsty soft scenes, like it's just got something for everyone. And if you don't like romance, I don't know what to tell you because I'm just a sucker for anything cuddly or not cuddly. I'm a sucker for enemies to lovers as well. My underboobs are sweating real bad, so I think we're done here. Thank you for watching. I hope I convinced you to read it, and if you've read it or if you want to read it, please let me know down below. Let's talk. Bye.